the stream would fail. I can't believe that I get to do this just after I do a presentation on human selfishness. But I'll get to everything in a minute. Alright. Also ignore my face. So I wanted to do makeup earlier, like a few hours ago, so I did, and then I went to sleep. So like half of this side's gone, and the blue has merged with the white, and all that lovely stuff. I could have washed this off, but I didn't. When have we known me to prepare at all? So there's been a recent thing that's happened with DanPlan, which is one of the YouTube channels that I watch quite dearly as well. I love the people on there. They never fail to make me laugh. And recently one of them has left and made a big video about it. And originally I was like, okay, that's it's too bad, because he is one of the loyal members of the group. He's one of my favorite people in the group. Yeah. I'm also doing this as a live stream. If you don't know me, I'm Sashi. I do live streams. I don't do videos, or not very often. And I could have made this a video so that it was comprehensive and watchable, but I'm not going to because I'm lazy. And I feel it's better to just chat and talk rather than worry about editing. It takes time. I do not envy people that make videos at all. Is that the right way to say it? Probably. Also, it's nearly 2 AM in the morning for me. So, despite having a few hours nap, I might not be completely there. You might notice I'm a bit slow right now. I literally pretty much just woke up, I watched the video and then went, I need to stream right now. Because earlier today I did a presentation on the human behaviour and conversation. Let me describe to you what I'm doing. I'm doing a master's degree currently in forest sciences, wildlife and biodiversity. Now, what does human behaviour have to do with that? Well, basically everything, because basically we run a planet. And if we don't behave in certain ways, or if we don't care, etc., etc., then nothing happens conservation-wise, or anything. So yeah, it's actually a really important topic. For me, it was really interesting to research into, and yeah. So I did that today, and then the video that Jay posted out. Actually, speaking of which, I was going to do this earlier and I did not. I wanted to put the links to the videos. I've got Jay's still open. I'm not going to watch the videos. Hi Sunny and welcome to the stream of fail. I'm going to put this in the description. Please do watch this. I'm going to label them as well. What's this about? So there's a channel called DanPlan. Do you know of it? I've shared a few of their videos on my Discord and such, so maybe you've seen some of the things. They do like what if scenarios as a panel-based animation channel. I'm just gonna add their videos to this because I think it's highly freaking important that that if you are interested in this, or if you are interested in DanPlan, that you watch these. So, like I said about being prepared, it's not a thing. That's all. So I got this. So there's, I'm trying not to play it. There's 3 videos that I'm gonna add to my stream here. Steven's video. 2 of them are videos. One of them is a video of a live stream that Steven did. And oh my gosh, the live stream is heartbreaking. You can hear it in his voice. It's not good. Yeah, basically I wanted to do a video to I wanted to do a video to kind of bring in a scientific side of this. And because I did a presentation on it today, everything is fresh in my memory. And I got the presentation next to me. And I'm going to explain to you why people do certain behaviors. I also, because of things that has been brought out in Jay's video, did you see Jay's response? Yeah, that's literally what. This is why I'm doing this. So, like, on Steven's stream alone, Steven talked about his side of things, which is extremely important to give your side of stuff. But hi, Roosevelt Crash, and welcome to the stream of fail. Yeah, so it's extremely important to say your side of things, but I don't think Steven wanted to actually, like, show us, or maybe he didn't know, or he just didn't want to give Dan so much fire because Dan was already going to get fire from Steven, just saying that he was quitting and reasons why. But the reason I'm doing this live stream is because Jay's video, which was released yesterday, and gave us more of an insight of what was happening. So, like I said, I'm a master's student. I do forest sciences, wildlife and biodiversity. Today, or technically yesterday, because it's 2 a.m. in the morning today for me, I did a presentation on human behavior and conservation. Now, in this presentation, it was, to sum it up, all about genetic selfishness. How we are genetically, we're made to be selfish. So, just, like everyone is selfish. And this isn't a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that everyone's going to steal candy from a baby. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying everyone is genetically selfish. Like, to find a truly altruistic or non-selfish person doing non-selfish things is nigh on impossible. Or very close to it. There'd be very few individuals who would actually display that trait, because it is, in natural selection, not viable. So, what do I mean by that? As you might have heard from schools and things, evolution and natural selection is the process where a species changes over time, and traits that are disadvantageous to the species will die out, and those traits that are advantageous to the species, I'm sorry, it's 2 a.m. I shouldn't be doing this, but I am. Traits that are advantageous to the species will be brought on to the next generation. Hi Joe, and welcome to the stream of fail. So, why is everyone selfish? So if we imagined a scenario where everyone was not selfish, everyone shared the resources that they had, learning about natural selection, everyone shared the resources they had equally, everyone had equal share in stuff, and everyone could reproduce equally because you've got the same amount of resources and that available to you. Now, one person is selfish, and they suddenly get more resources, meaning that they can eat better, they can be there healthier, they are more advantageous, they can reproduce more than the other people. So that trait of taking what you can, that selfishness, is passed on to the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation. Is a super interesting topic for me to go into and present. So yeah, and Jay's video coming out really sparked me to make this live stream. Not in a way really to like call or cause hate towards Dan, even though I've now gone from like a non-biased view of it, just saying, well, maybe he's just messed up in a really big way, to, wow, he was actively doing this. Hi, Tukin, and welcome to the stream of Fail. This is a thing. So there's a channel called DanPlan. They do animations, and it's like a team of them. And recently it's came out that one of the major people of the team has left, and another one of the team now is not associating himself really with the channel, but says that they're not against doing videos with the channel as a guest. Which, like everything that I'm going to describe, is I'm going to link it back to science. So if this is not your thing. Also, I don't do these kinds of videos, but like it just kind of matched up really perfectly with what I did today. So I wanted to share my knowledge and what I found out with you guys, and we can analyze it together. And if you have any questions, then feel free to ask, and we can go through them, so on and so forth. I'm going to try not to repeat myself so much, but it is a live stream, so repeating myself is going to happen, probably a lot. So my apologies for that. Hi Cloud, welcome to the stream of Fail. Cloud is back, I miss you. Alright. So let's get into it. I've basically described to you why selfishness is selected in this scenario of natural selection and evolution. How selfishness is beneficial for a species to be selfish, because if you're not selfish, your species is gonna die out, essentially. So if I keep looking this way, I'm looking to my presentation, which I did today. If you want the presentation, actually, you can contact me on my Discord, links below, and I'll share with you the presentation, and even give you like my notes and stuff if you like. But yeah, so we always have conflicts over resources. We have them today, we have them a lot today, even though a large proportion of countries are now actually able to feed everyone in the country, to give everyone in the country shelter, to make sure that everyone gets paid, etc., etc. Question, who's DanPlan? DanPlan's I'm gonna say this a lot. Just realized. DanPlan's an animation channel where they do like panel type comedy and what if scenarios. That's their channel in like as like a little thing. They are super entertaining to watch, and I would say I recommend them, but I'm not. I do have to recommend you watch if you're interested in this drama from like a human perspective, then do watch both Steven's video and Steven's live stream, which his live stream will possibly make you cry, just from his tone of his voice, and Jay's video that recently came out as well, with Jay's own like personal investigation. Sorry, there's a hair on the line. into it. In a nutshell, that's what it is. Question, who is Joe? Wait. Joe? You mean Jay. Did I say Joe? I mean Jay. Joe is someone in the live stream here. Who's a good bean. I mean Jay. If I said Joe, I don't know if I did now. Jay, who made the video, who's also in the link in the description, is one of the members of, or is not now a member of DanPlan, but is not completely disassociating himself with DanPlan and saying that he will do videos as a guest, but nothing more. Oh, I got it, okay. Joe Mama. It's 2 a.m. guys. Alright. So, from the paper that I was doing a presentation on, we've got the quote, as we develop technological insulation against ecological fluctuations, we have lost touch with ecological realities and constraints. So, what does that mean? This basically means that because we have this innate ability to create, to invent, and we've got tools such as medicines, we've got computers, we've got the internet, we've got all of these wonderful technologies that allow us to eat better, live better, be healthier, and live longer. Because of that, it gives, we've pushed past the constraints of what like the world would naturally give us in a natural scenario, and with huge massive farmings and crops and agriculture and normal agriculture. Both of them are agriculture, but crops and animals were just fucked up. Basically, because of that, we are now at the point where we're basically steamrolling the earth. That's a reason. And our population is steamrolling and rising so fast. The population graphs are absolutely astronomical. And yeah, so because of that, and it's because of our selfishness that all of this is steamrolled. So we cut down mass forests because we want to build palm oil plantations, because we want to grow more crops, because we want to have fields for animals, because we want housing, because we want a new football pitch, etc., etc. But we don't care what's in that forest. And when I mean as a human population, we don't care what's in those forests, because if we care, we wouldn't be burning them down and cutting them down, etc., etc. Time to create. I don't understand. So yeah, you get the gist. We're pretty selfish people, or selfish beings, I should say. And humans have resolved. Humans have evolved to get resources in order to survive, with the well-being of individuals taking precedence. Now, in everyone's life, the person that is most important is yourself. Regardless of everything else, genetically, you want yourself to live, or you would not be here. Everything in your body wants you to live. That's why it's so hard to kill yourself. Kind of dark topic, but your body wants to survive. Your body wants to pass on genetics. That's why you get horny. Your body wants to get nutrients. That's why it gets. That's not why it gets hungry, but like, it's why it sends. You get the gist of it. But yeah, so the individual, as in you, as in me, take precedence over everyone else in our lives. Even if we want to put other people first, we always put ourselves first. So that's how we've evolved to be. Because when you don't put yourself first, when you don't put on your oxygen mask first, you run out of air while you're helping other people. And you could end up being more destructive than helpful in that as well. So you end up dying out. That behavior dies out as a species. That turned south quickly, it did. So yeah, natural selection favors organisms that exploit resources effectively. And humans have done this amazingly. And natural selection is, it's for all organisms. So if it's not just humans that are selfish, it's literally every organism that has ever bestowed itself upon the earth. I want to get hungry. I don't need it to live. I just want to. That's your selfish desire, though. Inside, your body knows that food equals energy and is like, yes, give me more of this. Give me more of this. But yeah, everyone has different, it's like a spectrum, I want to say, of like how selfish a person can be. And depending on that selfishness depends on whether you pass on your genes to the next generation or not. So there's a right amount of selfishness to be able to do this. And a right amount of circumstances for you to be able to do this. So yeah, in some cases it'll actually be disadvantageous. If you are so selfish enough that you want to eat all the time and you gain weight, and it can be a real massive health problem. That's selfishness to the point where your body's just like not able to function. And that is disadvantageous to have, and the people that have that will die earlier and not be able to reproduce as much as those that don't do that. So they're selfish enough to eat, to be healthy, and pass on the genetics to the next generation. This is really, really cynical. Like I said, I'm doing this purely from a scientific basis because we've had both the emotional side of it and actually what's going on from DanPlan side of it. And I just want to explain to you these concepts that I presented today in my class before I go into the whole what's happened with DanPlan and how this relates to DanPlan. By the way, Sashi, do you know that the oxygen we breathe doesn't come from trees? The oxygen we breathe comes from the air. The trees contribute to that oxygen in the air. So, it's kind of one of those scenarios where yes and no, but you can't follow an individual molecule of oxygen to find out where it actually came from. You won't be able to do that. It's not a thing. Is this what causes others to think that they are better than everyone? Yes and no. So, having the thought that you're better than everyone is advantageous only when you actually have the skills to back it up. So, if a really good animator says that they're better than everyone else, therefore you should pay them a lot and, I don't know, worship the ground that they work on, some people might actually follow that and be like, yes, you are correct, you are a really freaking good animator and I'll worship the ground that you walk on. The ocean is actually where we get most of our oxygen from. Yes. Plankton and cyanobacteria. Amoebas. Because there's a lot more of them. But trees are actually super good at respiring, especially dicots, which are, and dioecious trees. So the trees that change with every season are stupidly good at respiring. They are, yeah. They've literally evolved to do that. But still, they're not as good as the ocean or bacteria, because bacteria can cover more space than a tree can. It's got more surface area, and there's more of them. And same with the ocean. The ocean is most of the planet. Most people still don't really get that, but the ocean is the majority of the planet. So, there's not actually enough space for trees to give us as much oxygen as like the ocean or bacteria does. But that does not mean that they're not important. They are vitally important. We're so close to the tipping point. It is scary. Basically, if you take my course, you just go, oh, that's nice. I'm gonna go home and try not to be depressed about that information that I just learned. Okay, so... Oh, no, if you commit die, you actually release carbon dioxide more. Because the carbon in your body breaks down and oxidizes with the air, the oxygen in the air, and creates CO2. Dead animals and dead things create an awful lot of CO2. Awful lot. You'd be surprised at how much it costs, how much we create. But yeah, so we have this concept. We're basically running ourselves into the ground as a population. It's wonderful, it's all wonderful. You hear about the oxygen making machines that they want to replace trees. I think it won't be as good as air from trees or oceans. So, this is a perfect example. So science is wonderful. Humans are wonderful. We are incredible thinkers and incredible inventors. Yes and no. Because over your lifespan you would produce more CO2 if you stayed alive. But if you died, you create a, increase for a very short, very short in Earth years, Earth millennia, whatever, the decomposing, of CO2. So it depends. This again is, we'll speak about this later. Reward now versus reward later. Or not reward now versus not reward later. Like this whole concept that humans have as well. It's fascinating. But yes, I did hear about that. And the problem with it is, what do we do to make a tree? We plant a seed and we water it, which the earth can do on its own, and we give it sunlight, which the earth can do on its own. If we get a machine to do it, we have to make the machine, we have to make the fuel for the machine, we have to, when the machine breaks down, we have to fix it. When the machine breaks down and we can't fix it, we now have a lot of plastics and metals that are useless and either need to get recycled or they need to be disposed of, and that recycling and disposed of process also uses up more energy and is more wasteful than just planting a seed and waiting for it to grow. The problem is we keep cutting down more than we can survive off, tree-wise. Sashi.exe is a bug restarting Sashi. Yes. So, no. It's one of those things, the same as like these e-cars, electric cars. So, the electric car might basically run off nearly no fuel, and after it is made, it might be better than, well, it's not arguable. After it's been made and it's out on the road, it's better than petrol and diesel cars and lorries and etc., etc. But that making process, they make the bits in different countries, which means you have the logistical problem of getting those bits, which is carried by diesel guzzling lorries from place to place, and then they all
get the bits together, then they have to make it, then they have to transport it around the world, and by the time the making process is done, the damage that it's done to the environment is so much more than just making a diesel guzzling truck. Which is why treating trees is good for making more trees go. So treating trees, and this is the same argument that I use for Greta Thunberg, is what Green Trees and what Greta Thunberg has done is brought the, and we'll actually talk about this later, has brought the education side of it and has brought the issues forward. So Finland as a country actually grows 150 million trees a year, but no publicity for that whatsoever. But Mr. Beast, who is a YouTuber with a lot of people looking at him, did 20 million trees? Can't remember. 2 million trees? Something like that. And he's got a lot of attention for it. There's a teenager who invented a plastic collecting unit that you can put in the ocean, and it would start not absorbing, but collecting all of the trash, and you basically empty it and then you put it back in. And he's had no attention whatsoever. But Greta Thunberg has got all of the attention. Attention matters because of this thing called immoral and amoral. 20 million trees, there you go, I thought it. So you suggest throwing dead bodies into space and they will no longer produce CO2. There is still oxygen in space, it will just take a lot longer. But if you throw the dead bodies in space, while you have the projectiles of the dead bodies possibly floating around the planets, they will no longer harm the Earth. So maybe it's a good idea? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Should we send all our dead bodies to space? I don't know. Yeah. So, amoral and immoral. Anyone know the difference? What's going on? Hi iStream, welcome to the Stream of Fail. So DanPlan is a channel that is an animation channel, and they do panel-like what-if scenarios with the people that are on it. And there's recently been a drama, it's not really drama, recently it's been shown to us that things are not all what it seems, and one of the major members of that group has left because of reasons that I'll explain later. So I've done recently a presentation on human selfishness and genetic human selfishness specifically, and I'm gonna relate it to this because science. Can you imagine dead bodies floating around? I feel like she just has a bit of telling what are the dead bodies in space. Actually you wouldn't be able to see them. There is so much space trash around the world, but you can't really see them because it doesn't produce light. We're just seeing the shadow side of it, and they're so small. It's so far away. A human body is tiny when it's that far away, and you just won't be able to see it. You'd have to have like a stupidly good frickin' telescope. Dead bodies will be on new artificial satellites. Well, technically they'd be natural satellites, not artificial. Artificial is made. We're technically made, but we're not made in the sense of normal things. Like, I'm not made like a phone. Except that that's a strange conversation to have. So yeah, this genetic selfishness enhances an individual's ability to reproduce. Therefore, it gets selected throughout the generations. More and more people and more organisms become selfish as a trait of them being alive. So there are other things as well. So there are other strategies for increasing your ability to reproduce. I can't think of a better way to say it. I would argue that with a space person. I'm an Earth person. So I learn about forests and animals and shit. I don't know why I'm scared, but when I see the future, it might be I'm scared. I'm scared of all our futures. Yeah. It's one of the things that I see quite a lot of things where, like, you get the older generation being like, Jesus Christ, all these younger people are so depressed all the time, they're so pessimistic and blah blah blah. And like, when you actually sit there and describe what we're seeing, like just the start of this year, we had the risk of World War III breaking out, we had Australia on fire. Like, we had the Amazon last year and Brazil. Did you see Jay's vid? I did see Jay's vid, and the Jay's vid is the reason why I'm doing this stream. Because this links, what Jay's account of what happened links so much to this genetic selfishness in humans, and it just makes a perfect example of that. So yeah, yes, I did see Jay's vid. I linked it in the description. I also seen Steven's video and live stream, which are also linked in the description. So yeah, strategies for reproducing. Not actually not actually sex, but strategy. Excuse me. Strategies for being able to increase your chances of being able to reproduce by not dying. Not dying gives you the chance to reproduce because you live longer. Makes sense. So, we have different strategies for doing that. Cooperation is one of them. Now, even though every individual is selfish, we also realize the importance of cooperation. So this is highly effective. So we've got selfishness and cooperation, two traits that get picked from. And what do I mean by cooperation? It's when you come together to work on things. So it's not just one person that makes your food. It is a ton of people. It is people looking after it in the farms, and there's people that then collect it, there's people that put it into packaging and foods and blah blah blah. You're right, we're earthlings, but we're not made of earth or grass. Maybe, yes, of water. I mean, we're 70-80% made of water. We are walking aquariums. Glad.exe is stuff. Selfish cooperation. Yes. Because the reason we cooperate is because if we cooperate, we get to survive and pass on our genes to the next generation. Which, that in itself is selfish. And we also have reciprocity. Can't say this word. Reciprocity. Something like that. Which basically, it's only something that you see in long-lived species. And it is individuals being able to recognize each other and are likely to interact repeatedly. So if we as humans recognize another human, we have 2 arms, we have 2 legs, we have a head and a torso, an ass, and we can recognize other humans by having that same trait. And this is also the reason why teddy bears are so popular. So teddy bears got 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and a torso. And actually it goes even further. A teddy bear is not a replication. Teddy bear is like a baby. It's supposed to replicate a baby. So it's got short arms, short stubby legs, big head, big eyes, and that's the reason why they got so popular worldwide, is because we like things that look like our offspring in a way. It's why we've selected in dogs and cats these same traits, this cuteness factor. It's something that we can relate to, and then we see it then as our kin. And if we see something as our kin, as our family, then we're more likely to cooperate with them and look after them, because we expect in return for them to look after us. Even think of what Dan will say. I have no idea what Dan is going to say. His name is ruined, and he hurt, I think you mean, hurt a lot of people. I wonder what's next. I don't know what he can even say now. He kind of had his chance. And I don't know. I have no idea. And he said, to quote Jay's video, that he, what was it? That everything he does it's his kind of decision, and he doesn't want anyone else to kind of help or have an opinion on it. And if the channel goes down, then he doesn't care, then the channel goes down because of him. So I think he's gonna prove his words, basically, is what's gonna happen. Earth is 80% ocean. We have dolphins that can paint. We have horses that go on public buses. Come down to Earth. You'll have a blast, indeed. I want to kill me just placenta. Oh. Yeah. Is that why we hug them at night? Because the reason we can't sleep. Yeah, that's the same reason. Because we feel better and safer if we have something to protect. So the reason that a teddy bear comforts you as a child or comforts you when you're older is because you feel like you have to be the brave one to protect the childlike, baby-like thing that you have in your arms that is a teddy bear. So that's where that whole mentality comes from. So yeah, I have no idea what Dan's response is. It's not whatever he's. The problem is whatever he says now is gonna get hugely ripped upon, because he should have done it sooner. He should have got his shit together, and this shouldn't have happened in the first place. But yeah, we'll get into those stuff later. You'll understand with the formula kilometers per second. No. My Eevee plush hugs and hisses aggressively. Yes. So yeah. 2 things that humans have. Selfishness, and we understand the need for cooperation. Because the problem is, if you don't cooperate with someone for your own benefit, then someone else is going to cooperate with someone for their own benefit, and they're going to get more resources than you, and then you can't reproduce, and they can. And then that gets selected. Welcome to science. So, we have genetic selfish behaviors. We have two different kinds of behaviors. Yeah, there's more than two, obviously, but there's two. Right, now I get that. And no, because no killing, no dying, be excellent. And if I see that again, I'm gonna punish you. No. So yeah, we've got altruistic behaviors and truly selfish behaviors. An altruistic behavior evolved to benefit inclusive fitness of those who followed them. So an altruistic behavior is something where you benefit someone else even though you get nothing in return for it, because as a species it's beneficial to have people or have individuals that are like that, because it helps those that are selfish. And then you have selfish behaviors, which are you do something for your own personal gain. The cloud is punished. Himself the chalkboard. What? Why? Okay, so then you have two different kinds of categories that these two behaviors can fit into. Yeah, I need. No. So you have two different effects. Yeah, you have two different effects these two behaviors can go into. You have the phenotypic effect and the genotypic effect. A phenotype is something that is, let's say, for instance, eye color. Just to simple it down even further. Eye color, the phenotype is the outward look of an eye color. So my eyes are really freaking dark brown, even though they look black, like a demon. But more. And you have blue eyes, you have green eyes, etc., etc. So those are the phenotype of the eyes is the color that's there. The genotype is the a genotype is the actual makeup of that phenotype. So if someone has brown eyes, because brown is a dominant trait, brown, it doesn't necessarily mean that they only have brown genes in their genome. It also means, it doesn't also mean, it could also mean that they have a brown and a blue eye color gene combination, or brown and other stuff. But phenotypically, it shows up as brown. But genotypically, that person would have brown blue or brown green or whatever the combination for the eye color is. But it still shows up as brown. So, no dying. Trying not to. So, phenotypic effect is an outward effect or an outward perceived behavior, and a genotypic effect is oh yeah, I remember this one class. Science. I like science. Genotypic effect is the inward genetics, if you like. My eye is itchy. I have glitter all over my hands because of my makeup. Okay, so you have things that are, these behaviors can be separated into two categories. So you've got, you can have selfish phenotypic behavior and selfish genotypic behavior, and you can have altruistic, which is not selfish, phenotypic behavior, and selfish genotypic behavior, and then you can have it vice versa. I have green eyes, I'm told by a lot of people. My parents have brown or blue. How does that work? I'm confused. That's a question for your science teacher, and they'll probably not be able to answer that either in a way that's understandable. This is going into a completely different thing, but basically what you're taught at different levels is lies. And it's something called lies to children, which is trying to simplify really complex things, and then when you go up a grade, you'll realize that everything that you've learned is a lie, but you have the basis of an understanding to be able to understand the more complex thing, which is complex explanation. But I can't really give you an example. It's just something that you're gonna learn as you go through school. Do you want the red cable or the blue cable? I don't know. I like the color blue, so I guess the blue cable. So an example of a selfish phenotype and genotype behavior is like two male deers competing for mates. It is outwardly they are being selfish because they're fighting off the other male so that they can reproduce more mates than the other male, and genotypically it means that their genes are passed on to the next generation, therefore it's genotypically selfish. Then you have phenotypically altruistic and genotypically selfish, which is a mother looking after a child. So on the outside, it looks altruistic. Mother looks after a child, the mother feeds it, gives it shelter, etc., etc. But the reason for that is so that the child, which is their genetics, grows up, can look after them when they're older, and can pass on the genetics to the next generation. Whether the parent is conscious of that or not does not matter. It is still genetically selfish to have and look after a child. Another one that doesn't get referenced. Yes. I probably won't get references. They will fly straight over my head. So, yeah. Then you have something that is phenotypically selfish, but altruistically, but genotypically altruistic. These are getting really rare now. So something that outwardly looks selfish, but is actually not selfish genetically. And an example I pose to you is, imagine if you have a millionaire, and instead of giving the money to his family, he gives the money to a charity when he dies. This is outwardly selfish, but altruistic, genotypically altruistic, because he's not benefiting his own genes or helping them in any way. Therefore, it's genetically not selfish. It's genetically altruistic. But from an outward perspective, it looks selfish because he's not looking after his own kind. This is also where we're going to bring in DanPlan. So, one of the things that Jay mentioned in his video was Dan's ability to make himself look good on the outside, but is kind of questionable on the inside of what's going on. So with this is a wonderful example as well. DanPlan recently did their charity stuff, which they raised a lot of money, but it's great. And raising money for charity is wonderful, especially if you've researched into the charity and make sure that it goes to the right places, etc. But from a perspective of one of his friends or employees, which do not get paid enough, nowhere near enough, that behavior of him donating to the charity is seen as selfish, whereas for him and it's altruistic, even though it's wrong. Just because you're not selfish does not mean you're right. So I'm getting sleepy. I guess I'll go to sleep. Fair enough, no worries. You go sleep. It's all good. So yeah, his behavior of doing the charity event is seen as selfish from his employees' perspective, because he should be looking after his employees, but is altruistic because of not looking after his employees and not looking after his kin. He's not helping them at all. On the other hand, the way that he treats and behaves and etc. of his employees, so it's directly to them, is outwardly selfish because he's using them and not paying them what they should be paid. And is also selfish genotypically because he's kept the majority of the money, like, because he's not giving them anything, nearly not even 0.5%. He's not willing to budge on that at all. So yeah, it's super interesting, these kinds of different things. And we are, when you have someone that is perceivably nice on the outside, and they're doing that niceness for self-benefit, it's selfish, and it's also selfish genotypically, because if they don't get found out, then they succeed better. So if Stephen didn't come out and didn't say about what was happening behind the scenes and the fact that he quit and stuff, then the whole thing with DanPlan wouldn't have kicked off, and Jay wouldn't have released his video because he'd chosen to stay silent after having confrontations with Dan before about it and getting told to basically fuck off. So yeah, so these are different kinds of behaviors, some of which are profitable, some of which are costly. It's always costly to be not selfish. In a normal situation where you don't have morals attached to it. So it is always profitable to be selfish in nature. So instead of sharing your food with one of the other people, one of the other animals, you take the food for yourself. That is profitable for you. If you share the food, that's costly because then you don't get as much. Yeah. So I think that made sense. But something that is costly now does not mean that it's not going to pay you back later, which is where cooperation comes in. I'm just trying to catch up with my own presentation. A lot. Here's another thing as well, is we as a population have not evolved enough to consider the whole globe as our family. Even though we are all one species, we don't consider everyone on the planet as our as our family, and no species does that. Even though we recognize each other, and we could even come to empathize for each other and stuff, it's still not enough. And you'll always get this selfish behavior. You'll always get this us versus them behavior. Exploitation, when possible and beneficial, will always happen. So someone will always take advantage of a situation if it is possible and beneficial to them. In the case of DanPlan, it was possible for him to exploit the animators and exploit Steven and Jay for their participation in the channel because they said yes and agreed to his terms, and it was beneficial for him because he got animators, he got people to work which wouldn't complain, and he just told to shut up and could guilt trip, etc., etc., into doing the work for him. So because it was possible and beneficial for him, that is the path that he's chosen. And because no one was really, I guess, until now, kind of strong enough to go up against him and call him out for it, it lasted for the time that the channel had been around. I've noticed as well that the channel subscribers have severely dropped over the last few weeks by now. Since Steven's first video, and I imagine after Jay's video yesterday, it is going to do another dive. Especially when Jay has come out and quoted Dan in the ways that he has. Which will inevitably be the channel's downfall, and I think the channel will die. Because anyone who isn't selfish will not want to work for it. Because when you hear a bad rap of a boss, no one is going to want to work for that person. So, and he can't do it himself. He can't make the animations. I mean, he could, but it's nowhere near going to be the quality of what they are now, and he can't do it all. The personalities of the channel are Hoser and Steven, and now Jay as well, with his addition to the place. And there's always Hoser and Steven that I watch the videos for. Hoser is adorable freaking cute bean, and Steven is the narcissistic side of yourself that you don't want other people to see. He's got great dark humor, and I love it. And I love the characters that they portray, and just like, I feel like they emphasize and put it on more for the cameras, which is great because it's entertaining and that's what they're trying to do. But yeah. We also take advantage of stuff when there's no direct feedback that leads to damage of resources, which is, again, shown here. There's now a huge damage to DanPlan's resources, which is subscriber base. Yeah, subscriber base has been massively decreased. I imagine now in the future, if Dan still wanted to do this and wasn't stupid, he would change the way that he behaves and treats his employees and even friends. Like this, it's not even the case of like he was treating his employees shitty. These were his friends. One of them shares a class with him for 3 hours a day or a week or something. Like these, I don't understand the whole being able to disconnect yourself like that. I would find that extremely difficult and painful to do. I don't think I could do that. But like every person is different, and selfishness is a spectrum. we're also more likely to overexploit people that we don't know. Which comes like salespeople, or like those emails that you get where it's like, please click on this link so that you can join this competition to win this expensive prize, blah 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 blah. Those people that make and they use bots to send them out, but there's always got to be a human behind that, and the humans behind that are over exploiting gullible people that will click on that and will get scammed, and it's fine because they don't know the people. I imagine if someone did that to them or their family, they would have a slightly different opinion on it. Exploit is like to use someone. So in the case of, like for this for instance, I exploit you guys. So you guys draw me fan art, I enjoy the fan art, and I make more suggestions for you to draw me fan art. I don't pay you for it, that's exploitation. I can't pay you for it, which means that it is also up to the person doing that stuff whether it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Sometimes you can't help but exploit stuff. It's another example. Ooh, shops exploit people by putting discounts on stuff. So what you don't know is sometimes supermarkets and shops will bump the price of something just before doing like a half price off or 20% off stuff. And even the 20% off is more expensive than the original product was before the price was bumped. But people are willing to pay it because it's 20% off, because it's 50% off. Because it's got that thing of like, ooh, I'm getting a bargain. So the people think that they're exploiting the shop because they're paying perceivably less than what they would for the product, but it's actually the shop that is exploiting the people because people cannot say no to an offer like that. Well, it's really difficult. Like, even I find, I know this tactic, and even I'm like, ooh, that's on discount. I'm gonna go get it. So, does that make sense? As a concept, as exploitation. And people exploit for different reasons. So it could also be seen as me exploiting DanPlan's popularity to make this stream. Because DanPlan has a high audience. Me having DanPlan in the name of my stream will mean that, technically speaking, I would get a higher view count. Or I possibly get a higher view count because of it. So, that's exploiting. How good and bad someone's exploitation is depends on their intentions. So I don't intend to exploit DanPlan's popularity, I just want to draw a scientific side to what's come out of what has happened. I don't intend to exploit the artists in my community by requesting free art and that, but I can't pay them. I don't monetize my videos. I get $4 a month on Patreon, and I don't really get commissions, or at least not often, and every time I do, I way undercharge myself and end up spending more money on materials and stuff for the commission than I do actually from the commission itself, which is dumb. It is really dumb of me to do. But when they are really like, but that's also why I have the whole Sashi coin system. So I feel like I'm giving something back. It's not enough. It's not enough to pay people for the time that they've given to me. But if I paid people for the time that they were giving to me, I would have no time. Because I'd either have to pay them back in art equivalent to what they've given me, or I'd have to pay them for the time that they spend on their art, which I don't have that money. I wish I did, but I do not. So maybe one day I will, which would be super cool. I would love to just be like, oh, you've given me fan art? Here's money. That'd be amazing. Yeah. So that's exploitation. Sometimes we don't mean it, other times we do. It's all about intention. What is interesting with the paper that I studied, they claimed, that is a very strong word, that males are a lot better at exploiting than females are. Because statistically speaking, if a male is selfish, they get more ladies, which means their genetics is passed on a lot more. For females, we can only have, or we as humans can only have one or two at a time. And even two at a time is not really that normal, but we can have up to like, I think the largest amount of babies someone's had is like 8 at the same time, an octet. I don't know if someone's had more. But yeah, we are limited to the amount of offspring that we can have. But a male can go around and do it all they like. And this behavior is even like selected for behavior-wise. So when a male goes around and sleeps with people, it's like, yeah, good going, well done, blah blah blah. And when a female does it, it's, oh, she's a slut, she's not to be trusted, blah 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 blah. So we even reinforce this idea with the mentality that we have as a population. I have hair on my tongue. Which is naturally selected for males to be more selfish than females, because there's not that pressure for females to be more selfish than a male. This is not to say that females are not selfish. That's not what I'm saying. Statistically speaking, males are more selfish than females. Don't take the shit I say out of context. It's all relative. Okay. Where are we going? Someone in my family line has about 20 babies! Not all at the same time, but it's 20 or more children. Holy shit. But yeah, like, what I meant was at the same time. So a woman can only have, on average, 1 to 2 babies every 9 months, if they were really trying. Like, baby comes out, let's go have another one. Whereas a guy can literally go fuck 100 women and have twice that in the time, and even more if they really wanted to. So therefore it's then selected in evolution and nature. So there's a quote, had around 20, it was in the past at some point. Yeah, that's pretty normal. There's like, the reason why boomers are called boomers and why they're called baby boomers specifically is because of the boom in baby population after the Second World War. So after the Second World War happened, everyone fucked and everyone was happy, and it had a huge population increase because we just killed each other for the last amount of time. Wonderful. Christmas time is the most common time for people to decide to have children for some reason. So the reason that people, and nature does this too, we usually will want to copulate, to have sex, reproduce in either just before the winter time or in the winter time. Why? Because gestation period, pregnancy, takes time to happen. And you don't want to have a baby in winter. Humans, it doesn't matter so much. It doesn't even matter for like house dogs and house cats, or even for like farm animals. At what point in the year they have, because we've got ways of keeping warm when it's cold outside and so on and so forth. So, the reason that animals want to have sex, get pregnant before winter, is because there's a lot of months where if they had a baby in those months, it would be nigh on impossible to keep that baby alive. It is too cold, there is not enough food around, sometimes even you wouldn't make it through on your own, so why the hell would you want to produce another mini-you for that period of time where it is the hardest point in the year? No, you want a child just before or just after the peak time for food to arrive. Because you also want that child to be old and independent by the time next winter comes around. Which is why most people and most animals will want to reproduce autumn to winter time and then have babies springtime, even into summer as well. So there's this science. But yeah, that's why most people's birthdays will be between March and July, I would say. I'm in June. I'm a June lady. Also, another thing as well is that the days are shorter, which means there's less daylight, and less light actually correlates to how your mood feels. So people tend to get the winter blues, or have stronger feelings of depression during wintertime because of the lack of sunlight that they get. And the lack of sunlight means the lack of vitamin D, which means there's an imbalance in your body, and your body is trying so hard to balance everything out, and it just can't. And that is why depression skyrockets in the winter compared to summer months. I'm a November child, that's cool. Fair, I'm a Gemini. So yeah. So there's a quote from a paper done in 1989 by Daly and Cobb Jr., and it states that the rational behavior of an individual, given the current incentive system, as in current world we live in, is not necessarily a rational policy for society as a whole. So even though something benefits the individual, i.e., let's say you have a lot of money, just because you have a lot of money does not mean that helps society as a whole. In fact, it does rather the opposite, because those with a lot of money have a tendency to not share that, or not even not share that, but not spend it. And spending is important because when you spend and move money, that is what gives money its value. And it is, if you have someone that spends a lot of money, that is better for the economy and society as a whole than someone who hoards and saves up money. Make sense? Might not. But yeah, just because it's rational for you to save up money as an individual, that doesn't help society as a whole, because you're not spending it on, I don't know, a new t-shirt, which means that the clothes shop gets money. It means that the clothes shop gets to pay their employees and the people that make the clothes, etc., etc., etc. So by choosing to not spend, even though that's a rational thing for you to do, is not, I don't want to use the word nice, is not beneficial for the rest of society. Does that make sense? Maybe. So, how do we change, or how do people change others' incentives to tackle like big problems like global warming and the plastic in the sea and the running out of resources? How do we convince people to do what's not natural? How would we convince a millionaire to spend its money? How would we convince a lot of people to take shorter showers so that they don't waste water, even though they're in a country where water is freely available for everyone and you can have as much as you want? How do you convince someone to care about the Australian fires? Well, you've got 4 choices. You either educate the person. So this stream would actually class as an education stream. So you're able to ask questions and I'm able to explain from what I've learned, my point of view of things, of how stuff works. And you're able to then go off and do your own research and make up your own minds on stuff. Education, schools is an obvious one. Schools, even a lot of the time, people are like, school is a waste of my time. It's actually really useful. They give a lot of little insights into a lot of different things. So you have everything from maths and science-based stuff to art and cooking. You have textiles, you have design technology, you have IT, you have languages. And having these little bits of everything helps you get a bigger understanding of what is around you and what your interests are and what will interest you in the future. So if you want someone to care about something, educate them. If you want someone to understand your point of view on something, you educate them. You give them why you have your point of view, but you don't do it in an emotionally manipulative way. Education is literally just stating the facts of the time that you are in. Now, facts change over time, as science changes over time as we gain more understanding and more ways to research the planet that we live on. So we used to think that the normal state of an atom was just a mesh of electrons and protons and neutrons. Whereas now we understand that neutrons and protons are together in like a little ball, and then the electrons are around it.
No, not true.
But it's also allied to children. And education, especially in schools, actually tries to make people think critically and make you understand where people came from in the years before. So the reason that they tell you these different ways of how we perceive things is so that you understand how one person went from this thought to this thought. And the two thoughts can be completely and utterly different and not even seemingly connected in the slightest, but they still are, and that is what school is for. School is important. School can also be shit. You can have shit teachers. But the idea of school, the concept of school and education is good. And if you are interested in education, and if you are interested in knowing how the world works, why the world works, then you don't have to just have school to teach you that. We are connected more than ever on the internet. I said this a number of times in different videos as well, that the internet connects us to many different views, but the important thing is to think critically. Think critically about everything that I say. Is it all true? I don't know. It's true for me right now and right in this time. Maybe in like 5 years' time, or even just when I finish my course, I'll have a different outlook. We don't know. I don't know. But it's important for us to not then. It's the same with people holding other people accountable for past quotes that they've said like 2 or 3 years ago. Just because you've said something like that does not mean that that's what you believe in now. Oh, nice. I see fans doing. But yeah, so education is one of the ways that you can convince people to care about things. And education then also brings in the point of someone being amoral and someone being immoral. So being amoral is excusable, because being amoral is not knowing the difference between right or wrong, just as it is. Immoral is when you know the difference between right or wrong, and you just do what you want anyway, not caring of whether it is right or wrong. So what Dan did can't be amoral, because he'd been brought up by several different people in DanPlan of what he was doing, and he still decided to do what he was doing, but not only that, but also defend himself in saying that he knows what he's doing, and this is how he's doing it, and he's not changing his mind, and no one can tell him otherwise. That is immoral behavior. Yeah. And also, in society, if you have someone that is wanting to seem nice to people, and it is known that they know what is right and wrong, and what they should and shouldn't do, and they know that they can't claim amorality and would be seen as immoral, that can also affect and also guide them into thinking or doing at least the thing that you're trying to get them to do. So, yeah, that's education. You also have social incentives. Social incentives are trying, so Trump is very good at one thing. He's very good at creating this us versus them thing with people that think like him. And if you make an us versus them thing, you bring together a group of people that now see each other closely. So they're not family members, they're not really friends, but it's us and them. And as soon as you have a them, you have someone to compete against. And social incentives is having the us, having the separator from others. In the military, everyone has the same haircut, same uniform, and same specifications and such, because it makes everyone look very similar, and you can recognize your own kind better. And they all call each other son, brother, pal, etc., to make that family connection, so that they think together as a unit, they work together as a unit, and they would do things that people wouldn't normally do because it's for the family that they have created in that. So that's social incentives. Then you've got financial incentives, which is basically almost bribing people to do the behavior that you want them to display. So in Germany we have this thing called the bottle system, where every bottle that you buy, not every bottle that you buy, the majority of the bottles that you can buy can be given back to the place that you buy it for some money. Now, it doesn't matter that when you buy the bottle, this money is added on top of the bottle price, and that it's just receiving that money back that you paid extra before. It's called Pfand. We have a 0.25 cent Pfand on every bottle that you get, or it's around about that, depending on the bottle and everything, of course. You pay extra for that when you buy it, and then you get that money back when you return the bottle. Now this is to encourage recycling, because when you don't have this, you're relying on individuals to do that recycling on their own. And while that works, and while that you can have education to educate people on why they should recycle and stuff, it has nowhere near the effect that putting an extra financial gain on returning a bottle. It's 25 cents. You're not gonna get rich even if you haven't paid for the bottle beforehand. But you will store and keep bottles until you can get to one of the points, which are situated pretty much everywhere in every supermarket that you go into. You will keep the bottle until you can give it back. More than likely. There will be very few people that will actually put the bottle in the bin. And the bottle rubbish of Germany has significantly decreased since this bottle program's been introduced. And Scotland is now, I think, either we're thinking about introducing it or have introduced it now. And I think it's a super freaking plan. There was talk about bringing it to England and Wales, and everyone went, "What? I have to pay more for the drink in the first place? No." And kind of missed the point that you actually don't lose or gain anything from this. It's just beneficial for the planet for you to do this. So there was like, there's a bit of a struggle for convincing people in Parliament to actually enforce something like this, because people are like, "Oh, I have to pay an extra 25 cents for a bottle of water or a bottle of Coke. And I don't like that." And it's like, but you can get that 25 cents back. But financial incentives do work. Oh, gosh. I'm doing a lot of talking. Excuse me. Then you also have the formation of coalitions. Now, the word coalition you probably heard of, even if you don't know the meaning of the word, because of governments forming coalitions and stuff. And basically what a coalition is like a legal cooperation. So it's more than just a cooperation. It's more than just, oh, I help you out, you help me out, and it's all done. It's usually done with a signed contract and working together in that sort of way. So if you have, in Parliament for instance, you have two parties that are quite close to each other vote-wise, if one of those parties decided to do a coalition with a smaller party just to give them the extra boost to beat the other party, then they would have to do a coalition with a smaller party. And those two parties would have to sit down and go, okay, we need to make a compromise, we need to work together so that we can come together, form a contract, and run the government. That's what a coalition is. And then that's also a way to get people to do what you want by compromising and coming to agreements with them about what you want them to do. So if you want to have a commission from someone, but they haven't put their prices out on how much their commission is, and you're talking through the process of, okay, well, I want a headshot with 2 characters, I want this character to do this expression, I want it shaded, I want it line arted, I want this and that, and then the artist turns around and goes, okay, well, I would do, this would take me this long, this is going to be this much, and then you come to an agreement of what the price is, and when you both accept that that's the price and that's the artwork that you're going to get for that price, then a coalition is formed between you guys, and for that period of time
It's
you
called a
are
contract.
cooperating. What?
It's called a contract. It's a meeting of the minds.
But it's coalition,
It's a contract.
which is a coalition. In the terms that I am talking about, it's a coalition and a contract. But a contract is a form of coalition. My English teacher got us to make better alternatives for Britain and Wales, and my teacher mentioned the thing in Germany with dog poop bins in the ground. It doesn't seem like a good thing to do. Dog poop bins in the ground? I've not heard of that. There are dog poo bins, and every dog poo bin has a dog poo bag receptacle, as in like you can get the dog poo bags all for free, and that incentivizes people because you don't have to pay for the poo bag, because God forbid that you pay for your animal to clean up after your animal, because it wasn't your choice to get it in the first place, or wait. But it does incentivize people to it, because it's, again, that would technically be a financial incentive, because you are offering something for free which costs money. So it costs the government or the town that it's in money to pay to have these installed and have them restocked every now and again. And technically it's giving money to the people that are taking the bag, because the bag is worth whatever the store charges for it, and therefore technically you are making money by taking a bag from the bag yourself. But I've never heard of dog bins in the ground. So I can't really comment on that. And the last thing that you can do to change people's behaviours is to put in government regulations, which is things like speed limit, for instance. If we didn't have speed limits in the towns and on the motorways, more people would drive faster just because they can. Because they want to get to their destination, and it is really, really important that we save that extra second to get to the destination. People still break the speed limit, obviously, but you have government regulations, you put in fines. That's a financial incentive to not do the thing. So if you do the thing, you're going to get fined. That's a cost for you. So each time that you do something that goes against a government regulation, which would result in a fine, you make that conscious decision to take that risk of possibly paying for your behaviour. For your selfish behaviour, might I add. Maybe it was somewhere else and my teacher got confused. It might be in Germany, it's just, I've not heard about it. I don't own a dog, so I have not seen it. But I've lived also in small towns, so it might be a city thing. That's always an option. My nose is itchy. So I've lived in Recklinghausen, which is a small town near Köln and Düsseldorf, and I live in Freiburg, which is another small old town. Like, it's not Düsseldorf, it's not Köln, it's not Munich or anything. So yeah, government regulations.
What a ridiculous.
Yeah. That's basically my presentation side of things, with linking it to what's happened with DanPlan and stuff. Yeah. I'm really disappointed. Not really in Dan's actions, but the incentives and the thought processes behind those actions. So,
the reason that I made this stream after Jay's video rather than after like Steven's video is because from Steven's video you can't see, he didn't, I'm gonna go night session. Night night, Sonny. So from Steven's video, again, like I said before, rather than like actually telling, like he still quoted some stuff from Dan, which was frickin' assholey of Dan to say, like Steven is basically worth nothing and would never be worth anything to DanPlan community, despite the fact of being a major personality of it. And this is where it comes in as well, with knowing the worth of talking.
And the same thing comes from people that criticize Greta Thunberg and Mr. Beast and Team Trees and whatever else next controversy thing that will come up where someone speaks out about something but someone else has done something better to actually help it. Speaking out actually helps, because education and information, getting that out there, is sometimes more important and more beneficial than actually doing the thing that would actually help. And by this I mean, if I go around and I tell 100 people that chocolate coins were poisonous, that is better than me trying to contact the chocolate coin company and going, your chocolate coins are poisonous. Because when you have 100 people versus you have a better chance to make something change. So speaking out and Stephen doing his video and Jay doing his video and even people that are not associated really with DanPlan, like myself, and I know some other people have done videos on this as well, even though like we don't know the situation, we've never had a conversation with any of these people. I don't think I've ever talked to Dan Hosa or Stephen or Jay and that. We, just by making videos and just by making a stream, we are bringing it to more attention, not only the actual actions itself, but the way people feel about the behavior of the action. It is super important, if you disagree with the way that someone is behaving, for you to tell them in a way that is not destructive and not witch hunty. So the problem with most of the people, or at least most of the comments that I seen on one of DanPlan's videos, which was all berating Dan and having this meme that they started to try and trend of Steven saying, now I don't want anyone to attack DanPlan, and then Steven's fans going, let's attack DanPlan. That's destructive. While it might give your opinion out there of how disgusting you find someone's attitude or someone's behavior, it doesn't actually help anyone in the long run, because you just fuel this whole us and them vibe. You fuel that whole thing, and as soon as you make an us versus them, so they've like contributed to Dan thinking of himself versus everyone else, and has reinforced that with the behaviors that they've had, because they want to protect Steven, because they see Steven as, it's not really a friend, it's not really an idol either, it's somewhere in between, because YouTubers are in this strange in-between between friend and idol. Because of that, like, it is isolated Dan further away from his fans, as well as fans of DanPlan as a whole, as a channel. And yeah, that behavior doesn't help anyone. If you do want to help, if you do want to say your opinion to things, make sure that it's constructive. Make sure that it's not just, you suck, or you're bad. because it's uneducated, it makes you look stupid and an asshole, and it makes literally every point that you say after that point redundant. I completely and utterly disagree with Dan's actions. I think it was utterly immoral, and immoral from a friend point of view as well as an employee point of view. He kept referring to himself as a business, but that's not how you run a business, my friend. And it's completely and utterly selfish, which is a human trait that's usually picked for. But when your selfishness gets so much that you have this whole attitude of this is mine and everything I've made here is me, and you don't see the value in those around you, those that put you there, like, I don't know how else to describe it, but like, no single channel on YouTube is made by one person. Because if it was made by one person, it would not have any subscribers. It would just be that channel's person. How would that channel measure success? Well, you don't. Because you can't have success on your own like that. PewDiePie's channel is so big because of all of the people that follow him. And while that sounds freaking obvious, he did not get there on his own. It's from his subscribers, it's from his editors, it's from Marzia, it's also from him, and he does play a big part in it. But you have to realize that you need to know people's worth. Everyone around you has worth. And I'm just extremely disappointed in one of my favorite YouTube channels to watch that the person running it was not seeing the worth of those around him. And yeah, and that's my emotional side of my emotional review of it, is that I'm extremely disappointed that it happened. I really hope though that Jay will stop working with Dan altogether. No guest, no anything. I would point blank refuse in that scenario after hearing absolutely everything from him, because selfishly there is nothing you gain from that. You might think that, oh, you would gain exposure from it from being on his channel, but exposure is worth nothing if you're not enjoying yourself, and if you're not, the exposure does nothing. I've had exposure from big channels and it's worth nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Yeah. It's, I really hope that Jay doesn't work with Dan again, and if Jay happens to watch this, I say the same thing. Don't work with Dan again. I suggest anyone that's thinking of working with Dan to not work with Dan. Not forever, but at the very least until he speaks up about what's happened. Until he shows some remorse or some even just understanding of the implications of what he did. Like, if he was to take back that he was willing to go down with the ship, as you say, like, because his channel is not made by him. It's made by all of those around him, all of his subscribers. Every single person that's subscribed to him, they make that channel what it is. Because they're subscribed. Every single view, that's done by a person. And yeah. If Dan ever watches this and he's actually got this far, you need to talk about it. You need to be honest. You need to speak to people. If you do not speak to people and you let others speak for you, whether it is true or not, it looks awful on you. Even if you came forward and gone, yes, this is true, I'm an asshole, or even if you say I'm not an asshole and you go, yes, this is what I think, this is how I think a business should be run, you need to be the one to come forward and say that. You need to be able to be honest with those that watch you, because they make your channel, not you. You might make the content, but you don't share the video with friends and family. That's done by the hundreds and thousands of people that watch you. You can't do what they can do. No single person can do what a fan base can do. And yeah. Don't know what else to say. But yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.